I thought we did sign.
Kent's not here yet.
We did that in a different.
Okay.
We didn't do
Let me
it.
answer a page real quick and I'll get right back with you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Or maybe you didn't.
Oh, that's good timing.
Okay, that's.
Well, I got home, I pulled up the board packet and I started running numbers based on the clinic volumes, et cetera. So it's gonna be interesting. When we go to committee level, I actually have projections. I even pulled up the fairly qualified health clinics average reimbursement for each of the highest codes that they do and started running the numbers. It's gonna turn out to be an interesting process.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way anybody's gonna be able to afford any rent. And we'll probably end up recommending a graduated rent profile as we negotiate whoever we're picking that. It's off the record, I mean, just.
Hey, do we have any guests there or is it just us?
Oh, just us
Okay.
and Cindy and Dustin.
Okay, very cool. So do you want to just get started and Ken can join us when he gets there?
I'm here. He just walked
Or
in
you just
while
got
you're.
here? Okay, excellent. Okay, ready to get going? I'll start the meeting. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, let's start the meeting. This is the January 18, 2024 meeting of the Platte County Health Department's Board of Trustees. Let's do a roll call. Who's all here? Start with me, Dr. Kingsley.
Dr. Chaffee.
Susan Cole.
Tim Swaney here.
Kent Jackson.
Okay,
Here.
very good. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good, thank you. And then, so there are no guests in the audience, no public attending. So I guess we'll move on to the approval of the past minutes. So has anybody had a chance to look at any concerns of the previous minutes? Is everything where they want it to be? And if so, do we have a motion to accept?
I had one addition on the financial.
Okay, go ahead. What's the concern?
I'm finding it.
Okay.
On the committee business, in the first paragraph, page 3, we should add audit contract. They will discuss firms, staff compensation, audit contract, banking contract, and then policies and procedures.
Okay. Andrew, you got that? You're good?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess take a motion to amend and then accept the meetings then, I guess.
I would move to accept the amendment and approve the motion.
Okay, so that's Dr. Chaffee. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? I'll start. Dr. Kingsley.
Chaffee says yes.
Holt says yes.
Tim, yes.
Jackson, yes.
Okay, so all of us say yes. All right. Moving on. So Andrew, if you want to take over and run the show, go for it.
So I think the first thing on old business is unified facility update. If we okay, but it's unified facility update. Just some things with our ongoing saga of the exhaust fans. They were supposed to ship this week. I haven't heard if they've actually shipped or if we've gotten them yet. I know they are not installed, but on the 12th of January, right before it got really cold, we did have several of our rooftop units have some issues with the heating. Hales, the contractor installed it, has been out multiple times. They're working on getting the issue resolved. Not sure if there's not something wrong with the actual unit at this point. I think the next step is to get train the manufacturer involved with it. We talked to Straub today, and that's what they're going to be doing next, is trying to get someone from Train out to actually look at it. But there's issues with what ends up being communication errors, but the end result is there's no heat on 3 of the RTUs right at the moment. I think really that's, we probably,
So Andrew, so you and I kind of talked about this before. So when you say no heat, what does that mean? Like it's ice cold in those areas, or what does that mean?
one is just turned off. One unit's completely turned off in the admin wing right now. We're heating that space with space heaters. The others are not working at peak efficiency. It's very intermittent, but right at the moment, now that it's warmer, as of today, they're all holding at about 68 degrees. So that's a lot better than not working at all. But
Right.
yesterday it was blowing at 52, and the day before it was 42. So there's some significant issues with at least 3 of those units.
Are these are heat pumps?
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're rooftop, they're not gonna operate real well at sub-zero.
Right, the auxiliary heat is what's not
Not
working.
engaging.
And they think it's the handoff between the heat pump, and maybe you've had that experience. I have not, but they are saying, the switching is the problem, but that seems like a manufacturer problem. So I believe that's the next step, is getting them more heavily involved. Did we, in the budget, I know last month when we completed it, we had talked about getting a halftime maintenance person into the budget, and that was approved. We actually hired for that position. So they will be starting next week. So we're looking.
And remind us what that schedule is going to be. Would you guys decide how you want to do it?
So we know Monday and Tuesday for sure. Oh, Monday, Wednesday for sure. And then
Thursday.
Dan's still in negotiations about when the other half day will be. But Monday and Wednesday will be full days. And I think there was some thought about what day we wanted, or I'll let Dan talk about it because I was.
Yeah, we have events that happen on the second and third Thursdays that it makes sense for him to be here. And then it also makes some sense to be here on certain Fridays because WIC is not here. So anything that has to be done in that area can be done on Fridays. But we'll consistently have him here on Mondays and Wednesdays.
And then it'll be scheduled for those other Thursdays and Fridays, so we'll always know.
And then there'll be 8 to 5, right, on the 3 days at the working, or how we actually doing the actual hours?
8 to 4:30 on Monday and Wednesday, and then 4 hours on, and I don't know if it's, I assume morning because the person seems like a morning person.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. As long as it works for you guys, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I think for Dan and I, our big discussion, and we were pretty emphatic when we had the conversation, was that this isn't a part-time as you want position. This is a part-time scheduled position, and we need you here on these days so we can spend the other days coming up with, making the list or whatever, and then depend on those things getting done. And I think when we ended the conversation, everyone was on the same page, that we all wanted the same thing.
Don't forget that
Very good.
you look at your routine maintenance that needs to be done periodically throughout the year and work that into a schedule of scheduled events that need to be on there.
So
Proactive maintenance.
right, so those are already, we started and already on the calendar, and our person isn't super into the computer side of things, but we have one of our clerks who has it on the calendar as a reminder, and so getting that logged and finding out. I mean, even with some of the HVAC units, changing the filters and stuff. Some need changed more than others. And so all that's being factored in. I think that's all I have on that. Then the next thing would have been the family health care clinic RFP. So and I know you all saw the RFP last month. We had required tours set up for this week. And as of like Tuesday or Monday, I'm not sure what day it was, Dan came in or we were discussing it, and we decided, no one had contacted us to do a tour. So Dan sent out a reminder, Tuesday? Must have been Tuesday. So we have had 2 people call and schedule. We did our first tour today. Most all of our RFP committee was there. Dr. Chaffee was there. Janice, Dan, Cindy, Dustin, myself. I think the required tour was a very, very good approach, because I think there were a ton of communication back and forth between staff and the potential vendor. They asked great questions. I'd say we gave, not me, but the team gave great answers. And we asked, and again, not me, but the team asked some great questions. And I just thought that back and forth was really beneficial on seeing how this could work and what it may look like. We have another tour at 1 o'clock tomorrow with a different vendor. I'm hopeful for a similar experience.
Can we ask who the vendors are?
It's being competitively bid.
Okay.
So I would say at this point, we probably should not. And that's just mainly so it's fair to everyone, because they'll submit their bids and we don't want anyone.
What are the main questions that they're asking of us? What are the big questions that they need answered?
Do you want to answer that?
There were a lot of clarifications on shared space, what's our intention with the equipment. They were assessing what their needs were, what they're going to have to bring in. The refrigeration, the refrigerators, where to keep vaccines, how will that be coordinated? Essentially the information that they were asking was what's essentially in the lease and what isn't, if I may, because everything boils down to your leasing space and how you operate it. They really wanted to make sure what our intentions were for, do we have any restrictions on how many days we're going to be open? They asked a lot of questions a couple questions that might have been vague in the RFP. For example, the operating hours 8 to 5. They wanted clarification if it's every day we're expecting them to be there, which we said no. They can only staff it based upon volumes that make sense from a business standpoint, but we explained that typically we wouldn't want to go outside the hours of 8 to 5, but that we would be negotiable on that. So it was just clarifications in the RFP. A lot of questions we were trying to determine their flexibility and how they're going to coordinate possibly with other clinics they operate, who almost gave away. Other clinics they operate. So they had 3 people who were very knowledgeable, asked good questions, and that's generally kind of what went on. They want to look at how many rooms we had, places for medical assistance, the flow of traffic, which refrigerators are used for what, specimen refrigerators, vaccine refrigerators. Am I missing anything? That was the general gist of it. It was reasonable and probative on their side. We were able to get a lot of good information about I felt like I got a lot of good perspective on their potential for success.
If we do 8 to 5, let's say for their clinic, any clinic that whoever wins the bid, when's the last what's the time that they absolutely have to be out of the building? What time do we lock everything up at 5:30, 6 o'clock? What time do they have to be out of the building by?
So the RFP actually said the clinic needed to operate within the hours that we're normally open, which is Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, or Monday through Thursday, 8 to 6, and Friday, 8 to 4:30.
Okay,
The contracts awarded to would be able to stay later, and, you know, we just would want the hours to be within those operating hours. All the time, you have someone that may need some extra care that goes beyond your close time, so I don't really feel there's an issue with that. It's just the doors would be locked at X amount, X time. So
right.
does that answer your question, Dr. Kingle?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
But I think it said in the RFP, you needed to operate within these hours. And they kind of read it as you needed to be open during these hours. And that's not really how it was meant. And Dr. Chaffee answered that. I almost said a name too. But answered that question and said, you know, the hours you're going to be open is going to really depend on your business model and what you're going to be able to do. And
So
so,
volumes, you know, if they're only gonna be able to staff half days, we were able to get some information about how what their staffing model and essentially break even numbers are. So it was a good exchange of information. So it'll prepare them, and I know that there's gonna be a lot of written questions from all our bidders that we'll be able to answer. And when we get to committee on this, I'll have a lot to contribute.
Was the question asked whether our existing staff,
Yes,
going to be utilized or able to be utilized?
Yes.
Or-
they asked Dan directly about that. He had to hedge a little bit because there's a couple folks who currently work in the clinic who may be possibly moving laterally to other positions within the health department. But at the end of the day, it was clear, we felt it was important that providers maintain continuity with their patients. The individual representing their highest level of healthcare, who's also a physician, I didn't give him away, felt that was very important. All we asked was, and the words I shared with them as a member of the board, not as the board, was that we want our current staff to be given serious consideration and opportunity to participate in the clinic operations essentially. They completely agreed with it, felt like, you know, they're going to be, once they're making the bid, they're going to have to know, are we going to scramble to hire people? So they're going to want to know, okay, we've got a set of staff that we think, you know, will be good fits. They'll have to do their due diligence as any good business would. But it was very clear that we were strongly supporting maintaining continuity of care, maintaining our staff as much as possible. That seemed important to them.
they seem pretty excited about that
Less headache for them.
possibility.
Yep, less headache for them.
Okay.
I'll add to that. They did seem a lot like they were very curious about what kind of clients we see in the age groups, and they seemed very interested in maintaining those same populations and even adding more services to it. So I think it was overall a very good experience, and I enjoyed it.
So I think that's really I did want to just update that the processes moving forward, timelines are, you know, are being met. We thought we've had more than a couple people, but right now we have 2 different organizations that are interested. And I'd say most likely they're both going to be very strong candidates, but we'll see what happens. And at least today, they seem super interested. Like they want to figure out how to make it work, or at least that was my impression.
Right. They're very aware of their break-even numbers. They're very aware of their reimbursement that they get for each visit. I had the impression they were extremely well-run organization from the CEO. Some of the services that they had available, I'm being careful here, seemed very outside the box thinking. I was quite impressed with some of it. I feel like they know what they're doing. They're a good candidate. We'll have the walkthrough tomorrow, and then I guess we'll have to have our first committee meeting at some point.
Dan, do you remember what's next on the schedule?
Um,
Because we actually have to have the addendum done by February 9th.
the written questions from the interested vendors are due on February 2nd, and the addendum is due on February 9th. I believe the next board meeting is when the board would open bids. And then after that, I don't know.
Do you want
There are
to be
some
involved?
items that I think we could jump into in closed session temporarily today. I'd like the rest of the board members to know some things that I'm going to anticipate that you all should be aware of when it comes to this. And given that we have a competitive bidding process, this is public record, I think this would fall under a closed session item. But there's some things I'd like to share. So I'm going to request we go into closed session at some point. It'll take me less than 2 minutes to give everybody kind of my take on it and what we can expect and what we may need to anticipate.
All right, Andrew, is that possible? We can do that?
That's actually up to your discretion, sir.
Well, I'm all for it. So the answer would be yes for me.
I just think the rest of the board members who may not be on the committee, and for my comments, I would like to get the board's input to allow all of our folks to stay put for this in closed session.
We can definitely do that.
Perfect.
As long as Dr. Kingsley says, okay.
Now,
The word is given.
that connection, right?
What? You're breaking up.
Right? Yeah, we can't hear you. All right, next.
You can go ahead and go down. So, let me scroll back up just a little bit so I can see the numbers. Our numbers almost did not change from last month, so, or from November. So 32 uninsured, underinsured, and then 59 Medicaid clients. One of the things I do want to mention at the beginning of February, Northland Healthcare Access has asked me to come speak at their board meeting, and I haven't done it, but I know Mary Jo had done it pretty routinely just to go tell what the activity is in the clinic and that type of thing. So this year I will be doing that, but they also asked me to tell them what we are doing as far as this RFP process and what we're looking at. So I will be just high level discussing what we're doing and why we're doing it. The numbers, I mean, Jen sent me with NHCA, sent me Mary Jo's previous report. It's pretty clear why we're doing this. As you can just see from these numbers, the numbers continue to decline. And so it's pretty self-explanatory. Go ahead and scroll down.
And the term benchmark, is that, how is that defined? Is that what our,
So it's a little arbitrary, but it is what we would get paid if we utilize the full grant we get from Northland Healthcare Access. They base it on us seeing 200 uninsured, underinsured a month. And we basically are doing, a fraction of that.
correct, okay.
You can go ahead and scroll down. I think I talked about all the. Can I steal something from you, Dan? Well, can you go to the slideshow of pictures and supporting documents? Why don't you go ahead and do yours, Sam, and I'll move it over there and we'll come back.
Okay. Fair enough.
But that's really all I had for my report that I wanted to, well, I guess I do want to talk about, no, I'm sorry, this is kind of a big deal. So the January meeting is where we kind of know where we ended the budget in 2023. So our revenue was 104.6% of what we had budgeted. So we were just a little over budget, which is good. And then our expenditures were at 4,469,340, which was under budget. So that's good. And because we were under budget on expenditures and over budget on revenue, you know, we had, and I think I've explained, you know, last year we were running a budget that was about a $500,000 deficit, so we could do the building. So we were essentially moving from reserves into our operating budget, but we actually didn't have to move the whole 500,000. So that was very good. Yeah, we ended up doing about half. So that's my report.
As you can see in your board packets and on the screen there, Stacy Benninghoff has resigned from the health department. Her last day was, gosh, was it Friday? Just recently, but Stacy had been with us for 18 years as health educator and had really done a lot to build relationships in the community with a lot of our community partners. So we're going to miss Stacy, wish her the best. Anyway, we'll move forward with the hiring of a health education supervisor. And that person will supervise the other health educator plus the family support worker. We had our first, as you know, snow and ice experiences with our new snow removal company, Bradford Street Lawn and Landscape. They did a fine job staying on top of it. I think you probably saw the checks to sign for those expenses, but we were real pleased with their service.
One of the days we were getting, it was icing up quite a bit between the times they were able to come out. And Dan had asked, hey, could you just bring us a couple bags of ice melt so we can have it, use the stuff that they're saying is a little more gentle on the new concrete. And they had it out here within an hour. So probably as quick as we could run to Lowe's or anyplace else. So that was very nice. And we got some little hand spreaders so we can, it's kind of fun. It's like,
And it doesn't hurt that their main office is not very far away from here.
Yeah.
Perfect.
but it was very nice.
Yes,
It
I'm
was
not taking
great
anything
service.
away.
It was great service. And it's like I get to do a jack in the box.
Very good. We have hired a assistant director for accreditation and quality improvement. She starts Monday, Tuesday. So excited about that. As you may remember, that position is paid for through the Public Health Infrastructure Grant, a contract with the Department of Health and Senior Services for the first 18 months of her employment. But then there's another contract that will take over after that to cover that expense for 5 years. So
What is this person's background?
So they have a MPH.
Mhm.
They have worked at multiple different health departments. They were in the Peace Corps. They actually got their MPH in Europe. They are multilingual, I think, not just bilingual. And I worked with her at the Cass County Health Department.
Oh, okay.
She was one of the communicable disease supervisors during COVID. So she is, and my experience was great to work with. I was excited she applied. And at least first blush from the other management team, because we were all in on that interview, because it will be such a department-wide impact this position will have, and what influence they will have will really shape everything. I wanted to make sure, I knew that
The character.
I kind of would get along with her from the get-go. I was very interested to see what the rest of the management team would think. And so I said nothing, and I think everyone was pretty excited that we had.
Did you have other applicants or
Um,
I'm just curious.
we didn't, did we?
We had a couple, but they didn't do your assessment.
Okay, so I know, so like we took all the applications on Indeed, and so I cut out quite a few people because they didn't meet the minimum qualification.
Okay.
And then I went back for the 3 that did meet the qualifications, and I sent them Indeed assessments, which are basically, one was like leadership and one was problem solving, and they just had to go in and do them. And the other 2 did not do them. And while the assessments themselves have some limited value, sending an email and asking someone to do something and then not doing it is a pretty good indicator of what you might get if they're on staff. I mean, it just is really telling. And Taylor had gotten her assessment and I had it returned, and no other thing besides an Indeed email. It was back in my hot little hands about an hour and a half later. So that's kind of speaks some volumes just on what we all would want as far as a response time.
Yeah, she was impressive. Probably the most exciting or fun thing we did this month was the harvesters distribution.
I think you intentionally didn't find it so you could take the thunder.
Oh, okay.
Can I
So
have
here, I won't, I'll give the thunder back.
No, you can go ahead and talk. I'll just find the slideshow.
Oh, good.
It was really cool to, after going through COVID and unfortunately the health department, we made a lot of enemies. I mean, it's just an unfortunate experience for all of us, but it was really cool to be able to be part of this where folks were coming and getting, folks who need food, need some assistance. We're getting assistance. We were able to provide it to, I believe, 104 families we served in a very short time. It was really cool the way it worked with our new garage and the drive-through setup, and this really went well, like a well-oiled machine. It was our first distribution, so it felt really nice. A lot of thankful, smiling faces. Anyway.
Can you see the slideshow there, Dr. Kingsley?
It pops up sometimes and then it stops and then it goes to whatever. So it is what it is. That's fine. Just keep going.
So this is them delivering the food. They were able to pull up right by the garage, and they have a Tommy lift, so they were able to bring it down. All the food has to be, it comes in those black totes. They're collapsible totes, but then it has to be kind of put together. And so we had volunteers and staff working on that. Everyone that I saw looked like they were having a blast. It was such a great team building thing. I thought it was a little chilly, but there is heat in the garage. But everyone was doing a very good job of working together. We're going to get a little stronger on working on some of our ICS, incident command system approach. So we know a little bit better who we're all reporting to and what we should be doing. But it's a great time to use us as a drill. And we served 104 families. So sometimes that didn't mean 104 different cars, because there might be multiple families with one car. I think one car had like 5 families they were taking stuff for. But as you can see, I was pretty impressed by this. We had 104 families we served, and 76 of them were from Platte County. So they were definitely, this was a nice site for them to come that was within their own county, where we know Clay County Health Department has been doing this for some time, but not having to drive over there and having it here. I was just impressed with the staff, the volunteers, Trisha and Don Padre, our new, tell me what Trisha's last name. Trisha, no wonder I didn't want to say it. Trisha Rothweiler and Don Padre, which you'd think I'd have problems with that one too. But they kind of put this together. This is something we've been wanting to do for some time. And they really, both of them just buckled down, and within what, a month and a half?
To Philippe, yeah.
And had us, I mean, they both got this chore about a month and a half ago, worked together, and we had our first deliveries this week, so, or last week. But pretty excellent.
Yeah.
Little windy.
Yep. And this distribution was potatoes, cabbage, onions, and we gave out some sanitizer wipes that we had left over. But the food changes from month to month, so we don't quite know until it shows up. But it was fun to be a part of.
And everyone was very, and I think we had a hot wash on Tuesday just to kind of talk about what we could do better and how we could, great ideas. The staff really embracing this project and really, oh, we can do this and do this. And I'm pretty proud of everyone involved. They did a great job. And I think my favorite thing was I got to go and just be a car loader person and not have to do any like management, just work. And I was told I did good then, so.
You did.
But, all right, sorry, Daniel.
Oh, we did have, I'm sure you probably heard it on the news about a measles
At the airport.
exposure at the airport, and we did have a resident who was exposed. And our epidemiologist specialist and public health disease investigator handled that on the weekend.
So I think, what time was that on? Well, it was during the Chiefs game.
So it was
Saturday. So I got the call Saturday, contacted Dan, but I think they'd already been contacted and we're all over it. So while Dan and I were trying to chat, they were taking care of business. So I think after you sent her the text, she's like, I've already been contacted because the state calls me.
I thought it was funny that they knew exactly the location and the time of possible exposure. It was with Terminal B, and then they said something like 6:30 to 9:15 or something like that. I found that pretty funny. So was it an airline passenger or an employee, or are we not supposed to say?
I think it's okay to say it was a passenger.
It was a passenger. So they do an exposure tracing with everybody on the plane, and then the previous airport they were at too, or what's actually going with this? What's the plan?
Do you know those details?
Yes, that's why we were involved in this part of it. We were just one aspect of all the tracing they did.
The biggest exposure would be on the plane itself, because you have close quarters and measles is highly infectious. So everybody on the plane probably should be traced. The airport itself, if you've been in the terminals, they're pretty wide open and a lot of space. But there's, if you walk past somebody, I guess they could be exposed. So still, it's pretty much everybody in that terminal, I guess, could be exposed. But it's mostly the people on the plane that you really worry about.
Yeah, and follow-up was done with all of them, as far as I know. Or what I was told.
Yeah, I was a little surprised we didn't have more residents.
Don't think so.
Yeah, for sure. That's really all I have, but I'll certainly answer any questions the board may have.
Dustin, you're up.
All right, yeah. So new to this position, as you all know, I'll do my best to fill Angela's shoes. I know those are very big shoes to fill, despite her being a shorter woman. But no, she was great and wonderful. Glad to learn a lot from her and hopefully live up to her standards. So last month we started doing more offsite clinics for trying to get rid of some of that flu vaccine we had purchased for our community. We were able to give out a ton at the libraries. We did try to promote as much as we could. We grabbed as many people as we could. But one of the most important things from that, we were able to like help build that relationship. And they actually were very interested in partnering with us more in the future for offering work clinics. So one of the plans we have going into next fall is doing a lot more, like having a weekly day where we're going offsite, trying to do like an AM clinic somewhere and trying to do the afternoon clinic at a different location, just having that advertised, starting late August, going to September, and then having a big calendar out for the public. That way they'll know we're to be here on X day for X amount of time, giving out these flu vaccines. So that's my big goal with that. Something I'll be showing you later, we have a new interpreting service that's available. It's a very great way for us to more easily communicate with our patients, as well as give them much more interpersonal communication with that, because they're actually speaking to someone who actually speaks the language instead of going over the phone, and like it's less personal there. By having someone in front of you directly speaking to you in your own native tongue, it's a much communicative way, and it also helps speed up the process a lot for us compared to trying to use that language line.
Is that a video chat or?
It's a video chat. They do offer some a phone service as well, because they have, and I'll go more into this later on, specific hours where the video is available, but it is during all of our clinic scheduled hours.
And you'll get to see a demo here in a minute.
Awesome.
Currently working on a bunch of our back to school clinics. I think I was talking to Kim and Susan before the meeting that we'll be at the Park Hill School District during the month of February. And then we'll be hitting the rest of the Platte County schools in March, trying to get their 8th and 12th graders ready for next year. Currently just finished up doing a lot of TB testing for Park Hill School District for their professional studies program. We've been doing that partnership for years. So we go do 2-step testing for them each semester. So it's really great. We had about anywhere between 35 50 students a semester. So yeah, it's a really great partnership, and it's really fun getting those kids out there and getting them in the world, getting some good experience. That's really the big stuff I have. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
And one of the is the releases from the CDC or whatever, the KHAN morbidity updates. They had the Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Yeah, you see that part there? I don't know what page that was on, but
That was meant, Jeff,
yeah,
I think that was Dan's report.
Oh, it was in Dan's report? Oh, I was gonna say, I'm sorry if it's in the wrong area, but I had to look that up because you saw there were 5 people, with 5 exposures and 3 died. And it was mostly pediatric. I think there were 4 out of the 5 were pediatric patients. And it's in Tecate, Mexico, which is right on the border of, it's near Tijuana, so right by California and Baja California, right on the border. I had to look this up because this one was fascinating to me. So these ticks actually live in the city. They're on dogs. They're the ticks that like to be on dogs, and they're in the urban areas. So all these kids are being exposed on a regular basis, and I guess it's highly deadly too. And maybe not so much deadly than regular Rocky Mountain spotted fever, but because it's in inner city, people don't think you get exposed. And it's, if you don't get your doxycycline almost immediately, you could obviously lead to death. I found that totally fascinating. I had to look that up when I saw that. That's an interesting case report if anybody has a chance to look at it. You would think Rocky Mountain spotted fever would be exposures like if you're out in the wilderness or whatever, but no, it's actually inside the city itself with all the domestic animals. Fascinating thing. Maybe I'm the only weirdo that thinks it's fascinating, but I thought it was cool.
I thought it was fascinating because it was in the report on our January packet and about Mexico.
Do you have anything?
Thank you.
So Susan, we'll turn it over to you for
Okay.
so this is when we will do our committee chair reports. And so far, we just really have the one, which
Okay.
is finance. So you're going to show everyone how it's done.
Oh, okay. I'll try and do that. You can help me out if I leave something out.
Sure.
The finance committee, we met, Tuesday, which was just this past week, just a couple of days ago. And, really had a very productive meeting. We, discussed the lease purchase payoff plan system. We, looked at the audit, contract and decided to keep that with the same company, based on,
Yeah, we'll be making a recommendation to the board
Okay.
in February to keep it after reviewing it.
right.
So
This is the person that delivered. If I remember correctly.
what's that?
Yes, that came.
Kenny Hills.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think part of the thing is, like, this first meeting was just kind of getting set up to what we're going to be reviewing and looking at stuff, but also how we take those recommendations and what we reviewed and
we bring
take
them
them
back
to
the
the
board.
next meeting. And, because this happened just this past Tuesday, of course, it'd be too late to get it on this agenda. So hopefully we'll remember these things in a month. But, we reviewed it and then just kind of how the committees work, obviously, and it just gives you that time to have that informal conversation, ask the questions back and forth, what's working, what's not, and then that way the board chair can bring those recommendations back to the board, knowing that they've been pretty fully vetted by the time it gets back. Sorry, Susan.
That's all right. Thank you. I appreciate that. And we also discussed the banking, agreement as well. That the one we have now goes through June of 2025.
So I believe it goes through 2024 with the option for 2 more renewals. So
Okay.
1-year renewals.
Okay.
We know over the next year, hopefully, as we get monthly meetings behind our belt of the finance committee, knowing that we want to change some of how we do things, we may want to change things, but at least and we may not, but depending on what services and products are available and cost, we may want to change. However, we didn't feel like within the next 4 months, we'd be ready to make that decision. So I believe what the committee decided was we'd be recommending to the board to extend it to 1 more year, give the finance committee some time to study the issues, and then perhaps make a different recommendation.
Our long-term debt is structured with Nottaway Bank, is that correct?
That is correct.
And our current banking services are handled through who?
Central.
I'm surprised Nottaway didn't make it a requirement to have our accounts there, but
So
great.
So they did not, but I have talked to them and they are
Yeah.
certainly would like to talk to us
Yeah.
if and when we are ready for a change. But they know that how we as government put that out for bids and proposals, and so they're very aware of that. But, I think we just need to look at that issue a little closer.
And we also want to go through all of our financial policies and procedures, just to kind of get everyone online in terms of what's in our policies and procedures. So, and we would have, if we decided to go with a different bank, we would try and have probably some people come in and introduce and see what they would offer us, that type of thing. So,
Yeah, I think, if we put it out for bid, we would have them come speak to the committee, and if others on the board wanted to come, we'll just post it. Anyone can come, but it's, it can be very telling, if you like, sometimes I like having people in front of me, but so it's more interactive and we can ask them those questions. So.
And we also
It's that, but you're also building a relationship with the bank too, and it's nice to actually talk to somebody as opposed to do everything electronic.
yes. And we also just did a discussion on our reserve funds and how we would set that up. But that's a continual process as well. So anything else?
No, I think we were pretty deliberate about trying to keep it at about an hour. And we only went over by about 10 minutes. And I think we decided the reserve fund discussion would be kind of an ongoing one, but Dan had done a really nice job of putting together, you know, a reserve fund explanation sheet and just kind of one proposal about how it could be structured. I think we went from 4 potential reserve accounts down to 2 that made sense. But how that, and we know we have in the budget some money to start funding it. We have about $95,000 already in a reserve fund, totally separate from any operating funds, truly a reserve fund. So I think we talked about that, what we need to retain at all times is the minimum operating balance. And so I think there's just some things that will eventually become policies and procedures, but right now it's conceptual discussion, which I thought was pretty engaging, and
Very much so.
everyone seemed to pull something out of it. So I thought it was a very good first committee meeting. Very good, Susan.
Thank you, Andrew.
As a board member, I am encouraged because one of the items that I have always felt strongly about is the methodology for allocation of reserve funds, what they're earmarked for,
Yes.
and protocols, policies, procedures, however you want to call them, as to when they should be used. Now, any board down the road can take any action it wants at any point in time and change those. But I think doing this work, I'm encouraged to hear your recommendations, because I think we establish what is a methodology as for guidance in the future.
Correct.
So I'm looking forward to your recommendations.
Well, and you know, when you have capital outlay, like an RTU that has a 20-year life, but you need 20 years to save for it, or whatever X item is, you know, asphalt repaving and all this kind of stuff, being able to have those things dedicated and not having the, oh my Lord, we need $150,000 for this replacement of all the HVAC. Oh, we've actually been saving in reverse, and all the finance charges is actually just interest paid back to us. So we're making money as we have to do this. So, you know, we had some great discussion, but I remember our previous conversations, Dr. Chape, and that's exactly what our discussion was. Did you have anything else, Susan?
I do.
I think I already asked Cindy, but she had nothing more for the finance report. We did, I don't think it's finalized, but I did talk to Nottoway Valley Bank, and they are going to re-amortize everything for that 15 years. But we still are going to be, you know, we budgeted to at the level of $22,000 a month at that, just at that, not counting any really of the other money. I think there's a little money in grants that we know are in this year's budget, but we're at right over 12 years of paying everything off from now, or from a month ago, actually. So that's going to be great. I think the next thing is to review and approve the bills. So just need a motion to.
Is there a motion on the floor for that?
I move that we approve and pay the bills.
Second?
I said,
Any
Michael,
further discussion? Do roll call. Dr. Kingsley says aye.
Chape, aye.
Cole,
Kim, yes.
Kim, yes.
Very good.
Fee resolution, Cindy?
We did have, some fee increases on our labs. Once a year, Quest in December, gives us our new price list. So they all went in effect January 1st. There's probably close to a dozen of them. So,
Anything
no, they were,
particular note?
no. That most of them, you know, are like $3 to $5 difference increase. I have the list here if anybody wants to look at them.
They were in the packet, right?
I think they were in the packet. They're the highlighted
See how fair they're treating you guys compared to me.
ones.
Now I can look at these and we can move on.
Just need a motion to approve them.
Of these?
So what were the actual, what were the changes again? I didn't hear all the changes. So what do we, what's the fee changes?
Specific labs,
Are they in yellow?
yes. Labs.
It's a comprehensive list and a lot of these I don't think are ordered very often.
No.
Quantitative, carbon degradated products went up. Okay, if they're ordering, which is essentially D-dimer,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, dextrodimer, anyway. And she said the average of it, I was just looking at their current rates compared to.
So I don't know if you heard Dr. Kingsley, but once a year, Quest gives us an updated price list.
Okay.
And everything went up roughly between $3 to $5 because prices go up. And so there wasn't any major changes, but that's what is reflected in the fee resolution. It's just the lab cost changes.
Okay. Well, if everybody's in agreement, we have a motion to accept the fee resolution amendment.
I've reviewed them. I think they're all within line. I would make a motion to accept these.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
Okay, any further discussion? Do roll call vote. Dr. Kingsley says aye.
Susan, yes.
Kim, yes.
Michael, yes.
Kim, yes.
Okay, moving on.
So new business, so just in fairness, Dr. Kingsley and I had talked a little bit about this. So every year we have to submit certain documents to the county. One of the first things we submit, and we've already submitted it, is just our operating budget. And it's kind of the high level version of it. It is, here's our income and here's our expenses, and we send that in. It's really just a requirement for us to send it to the county, and so we do it. The other thing we are required to send is a profit and loss statement, which is basically the short version of what I gave you all earlier in my report, which is we had in 23 this much money come in, this much money go out, and it's by count, and it really isn't, it doesn't say a whole lot. Sometime in the past year, I don't remember exactly when it was, but Dr. Kingsley had asked me, when we send that information to the county, it would be nice, because these are so mundane and don't really show the effort that we made or the progress we've made, I guess. It would be nice if somehow you would indicate some of the things that we accomplished as far as our financial standing. So in this letter, I basically say that, and a year ago, well, a little over a year ago, on January 1st, 2023, we had about $5 million obligated on this property. So that's how much we owed on that lease purchase agreement roughly. January 1st, 2024, we now have about an obligation of $2,524,000. So close to half. We also don't have any liabilities on two older buildings that I am very thankful that we no longer have liabilities on. Our citizens of Platte County have a wonderful brand new facility to come in and get services from. And again, we're half as in debt from a year ago, and we have a plan to, it won't be quite 50% every year, although that would be nice. But we have a very truncated time frame to get rid of all our debt. So you see my letter. If you have any changes, I'd be happy to amend it. This is just a draft.
Yeah, so when Andrew and I were talking, so one of the things we want to do is be very transparent to the people, citizens of Platte County. To me, this is like something pretty spectacular that I'd like to trumpet to the world if we could. That we're trying to be as fiscally responsible as possible. So we send it to the Platte County Administrator's Office. But what I'd also like to do carbon copies to the county commissioners so they can see that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. But the other question we came up is this something that we want to do as a press release to the newspapers? And I guess we decided to we'd like to have the board kind of give their opinions on that. I mean, you don't want to stir the hornet's nest and start getting people more involved in what you do, but we are trying to be transparent as well. So I guess that kind of curious to see how everybody else feels about it. If we could just do the bare minimum and just send it to like this cover letter to the Platte County Administrator's Office, and that'd be the end of it. Or we can try to show that we're very transparent. We want people to know that we're doing everything we can to take care of the health department, take care of the citizens, the taxpayers, all that fun stuff. So I guess if anybody has any thoughts on it, I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
I'd be interested in hearing everybody's input on the possibility of including as an addendum or an attachment to the letter, the debt financing deal we have in place, because it is impressive in a good way.
Yes.
There's that if we're reporting, we're not reporting to the commission because they don't control our funding.
Right.
But we're reporting to the county administrator. I think it shows a substantial degree of fiscal responsibility. That's such a the debt servicing agreement is one of the best you could have for this long term that's locked in. I think it really does show this department doing well, but I don't know how important it is to anybody else, but it's one of the things that I was very impressed by.
Right. And I don't want to make it sound like look at us for patting ourselves on the back kind of thing, but I do think that we need to let people be aware that we're doing everything we possibly can to, like I said, take care of the county, both the patients, the client, as well as the taxpayers, as everything. So what do you guys think? Susan, Kim, Kent?
Can you start? I personally don't know as far as all the details of our financing agreement, I don't think that needs to be published. Okay, I think that's right. I think if you look at what other agencies do, banks or whatever, they'll publish a balance sheet showing what their debt is, I think that's more what we should do. I guess if I was going to publish something to be proud of, I would want to publish something more like that report that we get from the color pages we get here every month. You know, the show what we actually do as a health department more than finance parts. It's just like this kind of report. That to me is what the health department is about. It's not about finance. It's about this. I mean, business is important, and we all have to take care of business. But that to me is not what I would want to be known for. So that's my 2 cents.
Anybody else?
I think it's good to send it, I don't know about publishing it in the paper, but to send it to the commissioners. I like, I do like that letter.
Yeah, the Andrew and I talked about the press thing, and chances are they probably wouldn't even print in it. They probably wouldn't even find it that interesting. But even though it is pretty awesome, the county commissioners, one of their criticisms in the past was that we weren't very transparent. I mean, this little cover letter is just the bare basics of what we're doing, and it's nothing but, like I said, showing the great things that we're doing. So I agree with Susan. I think there's no harm, no foul in just carbon copying it and send it to them. So.
That was gonna be my, I didn't think that probably they would care enough to publish it. But I don't think that
So
it's a big deal to them.
sorry, Ken.
Paper wise, that's what
Right.
I'm saying.
So I wonder, instead of attaching the whole agreement, just doing like the last invoice or whatever that just substantiates the numbers that I have in the letter, because it
As an
shows our
attachment.
balance due. Would that work for you, Dr. Shelby?
Well, yeah, the balance dues in there.
Okay, so
It's
you
already
think
in the
just
letter. Yeah,
copy the commission with this as a cover, and that's good?
that's all I would do. Yep.
And it's just that last sentence it was originally for over 30 years, but you just want to leave it like that since we're updating it to the 15.
I'll add
It
the
sounds
debt
probably better than
obligations
30.
now. It's been re-amortized
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's,
Make
and
it
an
correct,
additional, I'll
something.
make
Yeah.
that more accurate.
Okay.
Okay, so with the new changes to the way we wanted, do we have any motion? Do we need to do that, or do you just do that on your own, Andrew? Or tell us what you want.
Yeah, I think there doesn't need to be any board action. It's just, when we discussed it, we did want input from the board on kind of how the best approach would be, and
Right.
so I think this,
Like I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do this, but when we have something as pretty awesome as this, I definitely want the public to know about it.
yeah, I know last year I had a lot of discussion back and forth with the commission. So just being able to, add a little bit of context to where we are now, I think is nice. Just
And transparent.
yeah, and to just say, we're not hiding.
We're trying to share, yes.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
So the next part is going to be Dustin, but did you want to run the video first?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick little background. So they have the training video online, but it's not very encompassing. So Andrew and I discussed having a video for staff. That way they can be more familiar with the software and the device and how to use it. But basically this is for our AMN language service interpreter. Staff we've already been using this live in clinic, and I know our staff really enjoyed using it. It's a pretty simple, easy to use, and staff love it, patients love it. We're very excited about that. So we want to share with you tonight, like I said, our short little training video detailing some of the features about it.
Can you see that, Dr. Kingsley? Can you?
No, it's not popping up. It's not popping up on the screen, so I don't know why.
Sure.
Can you see that?
Yep, now I got it.
So today I'm going to talk to you guys about the AMN interpreting device. So first thing you want to do is make sure your iPad is turned on, nothing's on the screen, our button is on the side as well as the volume controls. You adjust that depending on how easy it is to use an interpreter or not. Let's select the home button on there. It should unlock the iPad. Press it again to open it. Passcode's listed here. And then here. It should pop up to the main screen. Normally, the AMN app is already on. It's not. You just go to the main screen. It'll be displayed at the bottom automatically. it's just like these green icon with a bunch of A arrows pointing up. Just click on that, it opens the app. From here, you'll see the list of all the different video languages that are available. Or to use one, you'll just tap on it and then it'll call the interpreter. If a language is needed that's not listed, you can go to an audio one. I won't do any video for it, just it'll translate the audio for you. If you're ever curious about what the hours of operation are, because some of them do have specific times. Like some of these, if we do like events on the weekend, they may not be available then. So you just select like the menu button at the top, and then it will show you the list of all the different languages, the dates in which and times they have video providers, radio interpreters. Also, a fun thing with this is you have a little option to where you can actually view training videos of how to use it. And then it'll give you a quick little YouTube-like video. I believe it was sent out with the original paperwork of that. So feel free to use that as reference to show you everything you need to do. Once you're done with the call and device, make sure you take it and plug it back in so that it's charged. And then we have a little sign-up sheet here. Just make sure you record the date, the time, who is using it, and then the patient MRN if that's applicable to it. That way we can keep track for right now of who's been using it. What we've used it for. There's also a couple of different cheat sheets with that to show you how to go through and back.
And I will note the password was default. That when it came in, we removed that sticker and changed the password.
So it's just this little and and then ASL and Spanish are the two most used ones, so they're also going to be very top. Everything else is going to be alphabetical.
Thank you for calling AMN Language Services, formerly known as Stratus Video. An interpreter will be with you shortly. Calls may be monitored for quality assurance. All information exchanged is kept confidential and.
Hi, I'm Katie, sign language interpreter. My operator number is 100-139, and I'll be interpreting everything I can hear. Keeping it all confidential, of course. If you don't mind, can you just turn me towards the patient a little bit more so that I can see them? Just so you know, ma'am, I don't have to be able to see you. I can hear you. I just have to be able to see the patient. Okay.
I'm fine getting out of the patient. This is my patient Dustin, and he is here for some travel vaccines, typhoid and hepatitis A. Because he's going to go on a trip here shortly. So he has filled out all the paperwork already, and I'm sitting here looking at it. One of the shots that he's getting is a series of 2, the hepatitis A.
Okay, so what would you like me, what was that you said, ma'am?
The hepatitis A vaccine is a series of 2, and he'll come back in 6 months to finish that.
Okay, 1 moment. I'm going to make a note of that. Okay, you said 6 months apart, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. 1 moment. Usually, sometimes people will call it. I'll be like, can you just use the whiteboard because you can't hear me, but I can hear, or I can hear you and you can see him, and so you can just use the whiteboard to communicate. And you can't do that. That'd be like a transcribe. It would not work well. So, but
and then just I normally would ask if he has any further questions.
What's your question? No, I think I'm all good.
Okay. Well, I think we're good.
Thank you. And I would say, okay, that's not all. Thank you so much for using our services. I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
do the survey at the very end of it, help with them. So Katie did awesome. I'm giving her $5. Video quality was great. No issues there. So we submit it, and then that goes to them for them doing like 30,000 their stuff on there. And afterwards, like I said, just make sure you plug this in, keep the battery charged, and return it back to the spot. I'm doing a login that we called. That's it. So if you have any questions, feel free to come and ask us, and we'll help you out.
But yeah, that's basically the program, the software, and how to do this. That was a live call and actual interpreter they have there. But it's a great service. We're glad we can offer this to our patients and our residents in the county now. And we have 2 devices. One we had back in the clinic wings we use for a lot of our patients who are non-English speaking. And then we have one keep up front as well. We have like birth records and all that too. So
Great.
Nice. What's the cost model? In other words, is this a subscription or a time of use or
time of
incident
use,
or
we're
both?
still
Is it a
waiting for
hybrid?
all the. So I'll have a number for you next month. We haven't gotten the official bill.
Did you say it's time of use?
Yeah, time of use, like per minute.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
I'm just curious, not critical.
Yeah. No.
so it's time of use, but the equipment itself had to be purchased.
Sure.
So those are iPads. Those are actually both brand new iPads that one of the local retailers had on Black Friday sale. So that's where we got those. And you have the option of putting together your own kind of contraption to move stuff around. Justin, can you roll that up here? This is actually AMM's product, so it's all proprietary. They created the cart, they created the cords, the flexible. I mean, I'm sure they're using someone else's products for the Bluetooth speaker and everything, but for our staff, it is as easy as plugging it in. It charges everything at once. Those run close to $1,400 each for just the cart and the setup. The good news is we did buy 2, but we also added those in to our accreditation assistant contract budget that we've talked about. So we had $3,840, which actually covers both of the carts and the iPads. So there was, I mean, we're taxpayers, so yes, we're paying for those somewhere, but it didn't come out of our health department budget. So we have those in the grant, and I think when they approved that, they were like, oh, that's kind of a cool concept, because I'm pretty sure no one else had asked for that. But just being able, the feedback I've gotten so far is, and I think you kind of alluded to it, being able to see the patient and read their face of confusion or acknowledgement really yields a much better experience for everyone involved than just on the phone, where some of the nuance is lost because they're like shaking their head but saying the right words. Like they don't understand, but they're saying they understand. And this kind of, well, can I clarify that for you?
And I'm still learning about some of the new features, so I'm going to add to that video for the staff training. Like one of the things now, they have a little cheat sheet that actually has their language, so if you can't figure out what language they speak, they can just point to that and then you know, okay, that's what that is, and you select that on the video call. They also have a really great feature in addition to that clarification whiteboard. They have a privacy button on like when you're on the call. So if the patient does want privacy, they don't want to be seen by someone else, you can select that. You can still see and hear the interpreter. They can still hear you, but they will not get the video feed. So that way you still have much more privacy. Does anyone have any questions?
I was gonna say we use, I think, almost the exact same thing at the hospital I work at.
Yeah.
And to answer Dr. Chaffee's question, I believe we pay like a monthly flat fee, and then we do point of service on top of that, I think is how they do it. But I guess we need to clarify for how we would do it, just to make sure.
Yeah, we'll have our first bill here at the end of the month, and I'll get that information to you next meeting.
Okay.
Cindy, do you remember? Because all I recall is it was just time of use. There was no subscription fee. It was just, we pay what we use. We'll clarify, we'll confirm that. But I sat in on the meeting and that's what I recall.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Paige earlier, and that's what she believes. It's just time of use, like a per minute thing.
Yeah.
And they do also offer, like for outside of hours, you can schedule it. They do have like a minimum amount of time for that, and then so they are pretty flexible with it. But it is software, and patients love it, and that's, to me, that's the most important thing.
The one thing, the only drawback that we have with this service is for more of the like kind of obscure foreign languages, you know, they always have somebody available for like Spanish and, you know, Chinese or whatever. But if you get more of an obscure language, they may not have people available to do the translating during office hours. That's happened to us a few times. They go out and I guess they try to page that person to get them to come to call, but sometimes there's nobody available. So that is something to think about, but it's a pretty good service. We enjoy using it.
So that's actually part of that scheduling system. When you ever have a rare language, you can schedule that ahead of time. So if you know you have someone who speaks that rare one, they can make it that appointment and then have that patient come in during the time they have that interpreter hired. So that is something they considered, and we have that available.
So that question came up, Dr. Kingsley, during the sales presentation. And of course, the salespeople told us it's not that big of a problem, but we will have to learn by experience, because I was suspected when they said that on some of these rare things where they only have 1 or 2 people across the country that does it. How are they always going to be available? Like that just makes sense.
Yeah, they're not going to be available 24/7. And when we're using it, we use it not just in daytime, but 3 o'clock in the morning too.
Is this something that can be used as a 3-way call for follow-up over the phone?
Yes, so like the audio option is available. They can do 3-way call. You can actually, they have it set up too, is you can do 3-way call with a video too. So if they have a family member who needs like care at home and wants them to be aware like what the follow-up instructions are, they can bring them into that and then be a part of it.
Perfect.
It's really,
Sounds like a great
I
service.
mean, of course, the sales things are always really cool, but so far, everything we've seen has lived up to it. But there'll be hiccups, there's always something.
Yeah, we were very grateful we were able to get this in there, so.
I think most hospitals are using some version of that, something similar, yeah.
Well, I know Dan was excited to be able to use grant funding to pay for this, so always looking for those ways to utilize those one-time grant funds for things that are going to benefit the department on the long term, and having this nice equipment to begin with and just keeping that up to date, even when we have to change the iPad out. That's a small expense compared to the rest of the thing. So
Okay, so do we need a board approval? Is kind of what you're trying to tell me here on the video?
no, just I thought it was really cool, and I thought you all would like to see it.
No. What you have right now, the personnel action. Oh, that's personnel. Okay, I thought that was for this thing. Okay, we already have it. Never mind.
So it was mentioned, Dan mentioned it. She'll be reporting to me, so I probably should have mentioned it, but thank you, Dan. But Taylor Harris has been hired as the full-time Assistant Director of Accreditation and Quality Improvement, effective January 23rd, 2024. She'll be starting at the starting step on that scale, $37.95 an hour. Just need board approval for this.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we accept the hiring of Taylor Harris for the full-time Assistant Director of Accreditation and Quality Improvement.
Do we have a second? Okay, any further discussion? We'll do roll call vote. Dr. Kingsley says aye.
Susan, aye.
Kim, yes.
Michael, yes.
Kim, yes.
Okay. Next, actually, are we done that we need to go into executive session? Are we at that point?
We just need to mention our next meeting will be on February 15th at 6 p.m. here at 7925 Northwest 110th Street. And if someone would read the spiel to put us into executive session.
Okay, I can do it. We need to go to executive session 610.021, 123, and 13 RSMO 2000. I make the motion to do this.
Second.
And this is for, oh yeah, turned out. And then we have a second. Oh, you already seconded it. Okay. Roll call vote. Dr. Kingston says aye.
Yes, Susan?
Kim, yes.
Michael, yes.
Kim, yes.
Okay.
Give us just a minute to turn off the recording and to,
Now, if Denise and Cindy, and I don't know who the other person are, if they'd like to remain, because they are part of that committee, but you tell me.
Cindy and Janice can. I don't know who the call-in number is. Do you know who 728-2559 is?
Andrew, it's me. My audio is not working very well on my computer, so I'm listening to it, but still watching on my computer. It's Janine.
Okay. So you're on there twice. Yeah. An overachiever.
That's correct.
Okay, so I guess we're good, then, as long as we have the recording on.
All right. If we're ready, Mike, you have the floor.
Well, I'm going to